Well, so this is the first time I'm going to try to do my sermon on a computer. I'm trying it out on you folks. Voila. Okay, now I am Minister Randy Lewis, and I know that not too many people know who I am, but let me tell you, you haven't missed much. So, but you may not know that I'm actually a member of this church and have been for 3 years. I mean, you say, where have you been? I've been around, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I've been here 3 years. And if you don't remember, a number of years ago, there was this big article about in the UU World about this huge black Pentecostal church from Tulsa joining a UU church in Tulsa. And apparently it was on This American Life, I believe it was, on UPR. And it's about this minister who stopped preaching about hell, and he lost his congregation. And we lost our church. And only 600 out of 6,000 remained, and we were part of that 600. So we end up joining the All Souls Unitarian Church in Tulsa. And so I was on staff for 5 years there, and then decided to move out here on the East Coast, and now I am yours truly. But we were part of that movement, and you may have heard about the movie of Carlton's life. It came out called Come Sunday. It's just released on Netflix a few months ago, and if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to watch it and find a little bit more about our story. It is our story. We lived it as well. So my sermon today is not as polished as I would want it to be, because I was finished with it yesterday or a couple of days ago, and then something happened, and I had to rewrite it. And that something that happened was my spouse, who said it wasn't good. So I'm going to do my best here, all right? Yeah, you appreciate the honesty when you're married. So throughout our lives, we go in and out and through changes. These events are necessary stages in the story of life. Some of us will get divorced, change careers, our siblings will move away, our mothers and fathers will grow old and pass away. Eventually, that which we've come to identify as ourselves will also transition this earthly life. For it is for certain that nothing that exists will remain as it is now. But for every beginning, there must be an ending. Old things must pass away so that new chapters and new paths can begin. Such is life. As the song says, everything must change. Nothing and no one stays the same. However, we humans are attracted or attached to routine and repetition. We often seek to immortalize life events and occasions. Those times when we were our best selves, when we were most loving and felt most loved. It is said that such attachments and the longings for perpetual existence only lead to sorrow and more brokenness. In Buddhism, it is the concept of impermanence that one is encouraged to embrace, with the art and the practice of letting go of attachments and its outcomes. When embraced, the art brings us closer to enlightenment, something we all desire. But with every change, there is a certain type of letting go, albeit for a moment, a week, a year, or a lifetime. Most of us would rather avoid change, but the truth is, nothing is constant but change alone. And as inevitable as change is, we still find ourselves to be quite resistant to it. I recognize that change can be difficult, intimidating, and a source of angst in our human experience. Everyone comes to bitter waters at some point in their lives. Life just has some bitterness built into it. The death of a loved one, sickness, bankruptcy, divorce, false accusations, rejection. At some point, a change in your life will be so profound that you would wonder how, or you will wonder how you're going to be able to get through it. This is what today's reading was about. The hardships we face. And while we cannot choose what comes to us in life, we can choose how we respond to it. I believe this is what determines whether we become bitter, better, or something else. We have some part in the choosing. Change challenges how we think, how we work, and the quality of our relationships, and even our physical security and sense of identity. In fact, change can be such a big deal that there are even change managers who work with change systems. They specialize in helping people and organizations navigate the difficulties and the processes of change. Now, my sister had an interesting way of processing the changes that come with a failed marriage. She struggled deeply while attempting to navigate relationships after the loss of her marriage, the loss of the ministry which she had helped to build, and then the loss of friends who chose sides and remained close to her unfaithful husband. Her voice message during the time summed it all up. And let me get in my feminine voice if I can. Hello. This is Allison. I'm currently unable to take your call, but if you would leave a message at the end of the beep, I will get back with you as soon as I can. Oh, and by the way, you should probably know that recently I've been going through some changes. So if you don't get a call back from me, just know you were one of those changes. Yeah. Now, you would have to know how really sweet my sister is to realize how broken her heart must have been to record such a message. Now, one of the most significant changes one might experience in life is a crisis of faith or a crisis of conscience. It is perhaps why many of you are here today in this particular faith community. Many of you, like myself, found this place when our faith could no longer sustain the reality that was our lives. There was a point in my life when all that I had believed about religion and God no longer worked for me. Tradition, doctrine, and beliefs no longer made sense, as my worldview was forced to expand. The small compartments which contained the substances that made up my life began to burst. And once this change was underway, I knew that I could never go back. Nothing would ever be the same again. I can tell you, when I deconstructed, I deconstructed. I tore down all the walls. I left the ministry and the faith, and if you mention God, you might get cussed out. But with Even with all of that deconstructing going on in my life, in my heart, I knew that I had had a profound experience with something divine. And that's something I could not deny that it had power in my life. I recall how I felt. I remember how I felt during those times. And like many of you, I'm sure you have fond memories too of your religious upbringing. But I'm also keenly aware that you're here because many of you were abused and broken. The more I struggled, the bitter I became. And I realized I had a choice that I could remain bitter, could try to get better, or I could try to become something else. You may be able to relate if you've ever experienced a crisis of faith. Seminary for me served to perpetuate the destruction of my faith. Why hadn't somebody told me the truth, the real truth in all those years? Sunday school. And I go to seminary and I learned the truth, and it was not beautiful. Toward the end of my time at seminary, one of my professors realizing that I was still struggling a great deal, sat me down and had a heart-to-heart. And I will never forget what she said to me. She said, "Randy, you must find a workable image of the divine. Not the God that you were told existed, or the one someone said didn't exist. You must reach an understanding of what you want that or need that being to be." Her words helped me that day. It was the beginning of me choosing to embrace the spiritual and emotional shifts that I was undergoing. I did the eternal work. Supported by my UU congregation, I developed workable images of the divine, the Bible, faith, religion, whatever it was. What I came up with was exactly what I needed. And it worked. These very specific images enabled me to return to ministry and to do what I'm doing today. I was an ordained Baptist minister who spent time with the Pentecostals, but who rediscovered his faith in a UU church among atheists and agnostics. In fact, a few of them are some of my closest confidants, and they helped aid in my process. So you might be looking at the first ever Unibapticostal. Yeah, I think it was, what do you sing? I'm every woman, it's all in me. I could say, I'm every preacher, it's all in me. Oh, they didn't tell you I like to have fun up here, did they? Oh, y'all, you wasn't ready for, get ready, get ready, get ready. So, for many in our nation, the last election was another major change. As a minister, I have spent a great deal of time with those who needed counseling, who were dealing with issues surrounding the past election and our current socio-political climate. There was a young Caucasian man who confided in me. He was experiencing feelings of shame, guilt, and anger. He acknowledged that he knew America wasn't perfect in keeping her promises, but up until this point, it seemed that the arc was bending toward a more just society. But then it all changed during the last election, he said. He said he woke up that following Wednesday morning totally devastated. What had taken place was a seismic shift in the foundation of his being. And he was becoming more bitter as time passed. He said he had lost his faith and hope in his country and was, for the very first time, truly afraid of the future. Now, I could relate to this young man. As a member of several marginalized groups, I too have felt let down by many systems in our country on many occasions. I voted for Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election. Now, how we cast our vote is a deeply personal and private issue, and it's really no one's business. But I wanted to tell you this because before Hillary and Obama, I voted for George Bush twice. It was my religious and political worldview at the time. All of us are at different stages in our journey, and we must take this into consideration when we think about our differences and our divisions. Then I was a committed conservative Baptist pastor, married with children. Now I'm married to this man who sang earlier. I'm on the board of the LGBT Center and worshiping at a UU fellowship. Boy, how that pendulum swung. The young man indicated that he had been proud and excited about all the social changes that had taken place during the Obama years. So as a minister, now I could have said, yeah, I feel you, brother, high five me, but I know that that's not my call, not in that hour. So as a minister, I had to provide a perspective that allowed for his healing. I could understand his fear, and I acknowledged his anger toward those who he felt had betrayed him. Maybe you should try to give them a benefit of the doubt, I said. Perhaps they were experiencing the same emotions then as you are now. Then you experienced progress and felt hopeful. Now they are feeling enthusiastic about their perceived progress. It's how the system of change works. We talked some more, and he told me that he was seriously thinking about leaving the States for Canada. I thought to myself, Canada don't want you. In fact, Canada doesn't want any of us. I told him that I prayed for the president, something he said he could never do. I said, yes, heartfelt prayers for him. Yes, because we all know that who prayer and meditation, who it actually helps, right? I don't need to say that. The one doing the prayer. He didn't get it, but that's okay. I remember what my ministry professor told me, and so I'll say to you, as I said to him, as it was said to me, if you are struggling with deconstructing all of what you thought was true about our nation, about our democracy and fellow citizenry, and if you are thinking about moving to Canada, don't. If your crisis of conscience mirrors my crisis of faith, if this is your struggle, then you, like myself, must find a new and workable image of our America. One that allows for our personal, national, and global survival. A new image of justice, of patriotism, of democracy, and of community. This is what is demanded of us. We must find a way to reconsider, to reconcile, to rethink, and to renew our America. Not as we once thought of her, but as she is now being revealed. Michelle Obama, speaking about her husband in the office of the presidency, said that such a position does not change who you are, it reveals who you are. And boy, there's never been a truer statement. But I think this can apply to any vocation and nearly any state of being that we may exist, whether one is the president of a country, a university, or a manufacturing company, a school teacher, a retiree, or a Cub Scout leader. When our personal values and beliefs are tested under great pressure, I believe the stress does not change who we are. It rather reveals the truth of perhaps who we always been. Author James Lane said something similar to that. He said, adversity does not build character, it reveals it. Are we witnessing the true character of our nation? Consider the purification of gold. When it is tested by fire, the impurities in the gold are brought to the surface, and then once they are removed, the most valuable grade of gold is revealed. Perhaps what we are in need of right now is a type of purification of soul and heart and mind and ideas that when it's brought out through pressure, we are seen as new. Perhaps when this purging or this purification happens, then will the truly authentic, the purest essence of who we are as a people and as a nation will be revealed. This is my hope and my prayer. Whether we like it or not, we are being revealed. In truth, the pressure resulting from the shifts are already revealing who we are. And we have the choice to become bitter, better, or something else. The truth facing us, rather the question facing each of us is this: do we like what is being revealed? And if we don't, then what are we to do about it? Well, the thing you should not do, and hear me out, is to try to change it. So what the are you talking about? This whole service has been about change, and you tell me not to change? Yeah, kind of, sort of. You may have thought my sermon was about change, but I had a hook. Or it may be because someone made me change it that I had to go back and think of something else. So, this is not where I want to leave you. It is about something else today. There is the belief that you can't really change yourself anyway. Personal change is closely linked to identity. And changing one's identity is nearly impossible, so why try? But here's what I want you to get. Change itself deals with only the bitter and the better. When we choose change, our future is really a reconditioned or improved version of the past. Let me say that again. When we choose change, our future is really a reconditioned and improved version of the past. Change only works with the current system of things. It lies within the constraints of the present system. Change identifies the broken part, dismantles the existing system, and then tries to fix it. Here we work to make things better, faster, cheaper, or some kind of smarter, cuter, slimmer, all trying to change the existing system. And there's nothing inherently wrong with changing what already is. It is a very effective tool when a better past is the desired outcome. We do not need a better yesterday. We need a brand new tomorrow. It's not change we need. It is the something else that I've been alluding to. It is transformation. Transformation demands something new and unique. Transformation requires imagination, innovation, and a childlike fascination with creating something original. It is the only way that we landed on the moon. During my crisis of faith, change was the crisis. Discovering a new workable image was the transformation. In your struggle, yes, you see the crisis, and what you did to get out of it was the transformation. Change fixes the past. Transformation creates the future. Through transformation, our wounds and old patterns become gifts and fuel that move us toward living a more heart-centered or soulful life, a totally new way of being. Learning to accept what is revealed in us, along with our faults, is essential in helping us to transform our lives and perhaps the life of our world. Yes, change is indeed constant, and what will happen will happen. Most of the changes taking place are ones we cannot effect. But the changes that we can effect, we probably shouldn't. Because the world doesn't need any more change. We've had enough of that, haven't we? We are in desperate need of transformation of our society and ourselves. One that is workable, one that brings healing and wholeness. And we Unitarians have something the rest of the world needs to help them through this process. I'll just throw it out there. Just talk about our 7 core principles. Transformation happens when we bind ourselves to a responsible, free, and unadulterated search for truth and meaning. You recognize it? A transformed truth that needs no proof. It is inspiring, touching, uplifting, and full of grace. Such can endure hard lies, fake news, and a crisis of faith and conscience. Let us have truth revealed in us. Let fairness and honor be revealed in us. Transformation happens when we continue to uphold the inherent worth and dignity of every person, honoring all human relations, building peace and mutual understanding that seek to uplift all of humanity. Yeah, you recognize it? That's our principles, how we live. Let love and concern be revealed in us. Transformation happens when we have respect for the earth and for the independent web of all existence in which we are a part. I finally got one. Thank you, sister girl. Let integrity and courage be revealed in us. Transformation happens when we are deeply ethical and true to our core values, standing up for justice, equality, and compassion. In these turbulent times, who we are and what we bring into the world matter. They matter more than ever now. Therefore, the challenge before us is not to pull away from the world in disillusionment, in despair. We shouldn't try to change anyone or even ourselves. We just need to show up and be. I'm reminded of a scripture, Romans 12:2, that says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." It's a beautiful scripture. That's how we survive. Now, if you just can't wrap your mind around the concept of transformation over change, I get it. It's okay. If you are still hoping for some change to happen in our world, then I have one concluding phrase for you. You still need some change. I want you to be it. Because nobody else is going to do it. Perhaps that is the journey that starts your transformation and mine. Amen.